The ship Horizon floated in deep space, silent and calm. Only the faint hum of the engines filled the halls. Jack, the only human on board, had been asleep for 4 hours when everything went wrong. When he woke, the ship felt too quiet. He sat up, rubbing his eyes, and listened. No footsteps. No voices. No background chatter of alien music or the clatter of tools from the engine room. Jack climbed out of his bunk and checked the time. It was mid-shift. The crew should have been awake, moving around, laughing or arguing about something. But there was nothing. "Bridge, report," Jack said, tapping the comm on his wrist. Static. A knot formed in his stomach. He tried again, louder this time. "Bridge. Engineering. Anyone?" Still nothing. Jack grabbed his boots, pulled them on, and stepped into the hall. The lights flickered overhead, not broken, just a strange delay in their glow, as if the ship itself was sleepy. He started walking. First stop, the galley. Empty. Food trays sat out, half-eaten. A cup of steaming broth sat untouched, like someone had just left it seconds ago. His heart began to pound. Next stop, the engine bay. No crew. The engines hummed, but no one was checking the consoles. Jack swallowed hard. The Horizon had 8 other crew members, specialists from 5 different worlds. He had worked with them for almost a year. They never left stations unmanned. He opened the ship's scanners from the console. No life signs. Jack's breath caught. That was impossible. He slammed his hand on the console and started a full ship scan. Again no life signs. The computer reported one single biosignature on board: human, male. Him. Jack's throat went dry. He ran to the bridge, boots thudding on the deck. The door slid open with a hiss. Empty. The captain's chair was vacant. The navigation systems were still running. A half-finished star chart glowed on the screen. Someone had been here just minutes ago. Jack spun around, searching every corner. Nothing. He grabbed the ship's log and pulled it up. Last entry, Chief Engineer Torval recording a note about a routine fuel balance. Timestamp, exactly 4 minutes before Jack woke up. The log ended mid-sentence. Jack stared at the screen. His fingers hovered over the controls. He replayed the last entry. Torval's deep voice boomed through the speakers. Fuel balance is steady, but we're detecting some kind of fluctuation near. Silence. No alarm. No shout. No sound of struggle. The log just stopped. Jack's chest felt tight. He left the bridge and checked every crew cabin. Every bed was empty. Every locker still full of clothes. Nothing was missing except the crew themselves. By hour 2, Jack was sweating. By hour 5, he was tearing panels off the walls, checking for hidden compartments, for stowaways, for anything that could explain this. By hour 12, the silence began to feel like it was crushing him. He stopped talking to the comms. There was no point. His voice just echoed back at him. Jack sat on the floor of the galley, head in his hands. His stomach growled, but he couldn't eat. The untouched cup of broth was still sitting there, stone cold. He looked around at the empty seats. The crew's laughter was still in his head, memories from just yesterday. They couldn't just be gone. Something had taken them. And it had taken them all at once. Jack shivered. That night, he tried to sleep. He had to, or he would lose his mind. He locked his cabin door, climbed into his bunk, and shut his eyes. But when sleep finally came, it was not peaceful. He dreamed of hands. Hundreds of hands pressing down on him, holding him in place. He couldn't breathe. He tried to scream but no sound came out. His chest burned as if he were drowning. He woke with a scream, heart hammering, chest aching. Then he froze. There was weight on him. Not the blanket. Something else. Something warm. Jack looked down, and his breath caught in his throat. They were there. Every single crew member. 8 bodies lay across his chest and bed, tangled together. Their skin glowed faintly in the dark. Their breathing was shallow. They were back. But none of them were awake. Jack could hardly breathe, not because of fear this time, but because 8 alien bodies pressed down on him like a living mountain. He shoved himself free, gasping for air, and half fell out of his bunk. "Captain? Torval? Anybody?" His voice cracked. No answer. Jack grabbed the nearest body, Torval, the giant 4-armed engineer, and checked his pulse. It was weak, but there. Relief hit him like a wave. They were alive. Somehow, they were alive. Jack moved fast. He dragged each crew member to the floor, laying them side by side. The air smelled strange, like ozone and burned metal. He had no idea how they got here, or why they were unconscious, but he wasn't about to waste time. He tapped his COMM computer, "Scan all biosigns." The computer's voice was flat. 8 non-human life forms detected. Vital signs unstable. Phase integrity compromised. Jack frowned. Phase integrity. Warning, life forms are in partial dimensional overlap. Jack froze. That was impossible. He had read about dimensional overlap once, buried in an old training manual. It was theory, not something that was supposed to actually happen. "Explain," Jack ordered. "Life forms are not fully materialized in this reality," the computer said. "Estimated stability, 43%. Risk of phase loss, critical." Jack's blood ran cold. They could vanish again. And this time, they might not come back. He grabbed the captain, a towering reptilian warrior named Vera, and shook her gently. Her eyelids fluttered but did not open. Her breathing was shallow, like she was caught between life and death. Jack swore under his breath. He had to act. He ran to the medbay, sliding across the deck, and yanked open the main console. The med systems were online. Good. He sprinted back, one by one, dragging the crew to the medbay. His arms burned, sweat running down his face, but he didn't stop. By the time he got the last one strapped in, his whole body was trembling from exhaustion. "Computer, start stabilization protocol." "Protocol requires 4 authorized crew signatures," the computer replied calmly. Jack slammed his fist into the wall. "Override. Emergency command, human authorization, Jack Halley, crew ID 7734. There was a pause. Then. "Override accepted. Warning, unauthorized procedure may be fatal." "I don't care. Do it." The lights in the medbay flared as energy surged into the biopods. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, slowly, the crew began to glow. At first, Jack thought it was just the pod lights reflecting on their skin. Then he realized their bodies were glowing, faintly transparent. And then they started to flicker. 1 second they were there, next second, gone, then back again. Jack's heart leapt into his throat. "Computer, stabilize them." "Stabilizing," the voice said, as if this wasn't the most terrifying moment of Jack's life. The flickering slowed but didn't stop. Jack pressed both hands against the captain's chest, as if somehow his touch could hold her in place. "Stay with me, Vera," he whispered. He didn't know if she could hear him. The medbay alarm started to blare. "Phase integrity dropping," the computer warned. 30%. Jack gritted his teeth. "Reroute power from the main drive," he shouted. "Warning, propulsion will be offline." "Do it." The ship hummed louder as power shifted. The medbay pods glowed brighter. Jack's vision blurred with tears and sweat. He couldn't lose them, not like this, not while they were so close. He stayed by their sides for hours, watching their vitals, manually adjusting power flow, talking to them even though they didn't respond. At some point, he realized he was still holding Vera's clawed hand. Then, without warning, her fingers twitched. Jack sat up straight. "Vera? Can you hear me?" Her eyes opened just a slit. "You," her voice was barely a whisper, but her golden eyes locked on him. "You pulled us back." Jack blinked. "What are you talking about?" But before she could answer, her head fell back, and the alarms cut off. The computer spoke. "Phase integrity stable at 60%. Full stabilization expected within 6 hours." Jack sank to the floor, exhausted. They were safe, at least for now. But what had she meant? He closed his eyes, trying to calm his breathing. The image of his nightmare came back, the hands pressing down, holding him in the dark. Had they really been there with him? Had they been reaching for him from somewhere else? Jack shivered. Whatever had happened out there, it wasn't over. 6 hours later, the medbay was quiet. The lights had dimmed, the alarms were gone, and the steady beeping of 8 stable heart monitors filled the room. Jack sat slumped in a chair, barely awake. His muscles ached, and his throat felt raw. He hadn't slept since the nightmare. A hiss broke the silence. One of the medpods unlocked. Jack sat up instantly. The lid opened, and Captain Vera slowly sat up, blinking against the light. Her scales shimmered faintly, as if she still wasn't fully solid. "Captain," Jack said, standing. "How do you feel?" Her golden eyes fixed on him. "Like I have been gone for years." Jack swallowed. You were. Or at least, it felt like it. Where were you? What happened?" The other pods clicked open one by one, the rest of the crew stirring. They all looked exhausted, but alive. Torval, the massive engineer, sat up and let out a low, rumbling sound. "Darkness," he said simply. Vera nodded slowly. "We were pulled into the rift." Jack frowned. "The phase rift? That was just theory." "It is real," Vera said, her voice low. "And it is not empty. It is a place between realities. Cold. Silent. There is no time there." The medic, a delicate insectoid named Ceres, shivered. "We would have faded completely if not for you." Jack blinked. "Me? What did I do?" Torval's glowing eyes turned to him. "We saw you." Jack froze. "Saw me? How?" "I was asleep." Vera stepped closer, her movements slow and careful, like someone learning to walk again. "When the rift took us, we felt ourselves unraveling," she said. "Our minds were scattered. But then, there was an anchor. A light. It was you, Jack." Jack stared at her. "You pulled us back," Vera said simply. "Every time we started to drift, we felt you fighting for us. Holding us together." Jack's chest tightened. He remembered the nightmare, the feeling of hands pressing on him, holding him down. "It wasn't just a dream," he whispered. "No," Vera said. "That was us. Reaching for you." Jack sank into the chair, staring at the floor. "I thought I was going crazy." Torval put one massive hand on his shoulder. "You saved us. Without you, we would be gone." For a long moment, there was only the sound of the medbay systems humming softly. Finally, Jack let out a shaky laugh. "You know, I thought humans were supposed to be the weak link on these missions. Turns out I'm the one holding reality together." Vera's mouth curved in what, for her species, was a smile. "Humans are stubborn. And sometimes, that is what saves lives." One by one, the rest of the crew reached out, touching his arm, his shoulder, or simply nodding in silent thanks. For the first time since waking up alone, Jack felt the crushing weight in his chest lift. They were here. They were safe. He had not failed them. Epilogue. 2 days later, the Horizon was back on course. The engines purred, the halls echoed with voices again, and the galley was once more filled with the sound of laughter. Jack sat at the table, sipping a steaming cup of broth. Vera entered and sat across from him. "You should rest," she said. Jack smirked. "I've had enough rest to last me a lifetime." She tilted her head. "The crew has agreed that the next time we approach a rift, we will avoid it." "Good plan," Jack said. She leaned forward. "But if we cannot avoid it?" Jack groaned. "Don't say it." She bared her sharp teeth in a grin. "We will need you to stay awake." Jack sighed but couldn't help smiling. He didn't know what had happened in that place between worlds, or why he had been able to pull them back. But he knew one thing. If it ever happened again, he would do it all over. Because out here, in the cold dark of space, they weren't just crewmates anymore. They were family. The Horizon had been back on course for 3 standard days. Life felt almost normal again, almost. Jack kept catching himself glancing over his shoulder, expecting something to flicker out of existence. At night, he woke up sweating, clutching his chest, convinced the weight of the crew was still there. But the ship was quiet. Too quiet. The captain noticed it too. "Report," Vera said on the bridge. "Any abnormal readings?" Torval's forehands tapped the console in a blur. "Engines are nominal. No rift signatures, no gravitational shear." "But..." Jack turned to him. "But what?" Torval hesitated. "There is residual phase energy on the ship." Jack frowned. "Residual?" Torval nodded. "Like static charge after a lightning strike." The rift left its mark. Vera's golden eyes narrowed. "How much?" "Enough to interfere with long-range communications," Torval admitted. "And enough to attract attention." Jack's gut tightened. "Attention from what?" Before Torval could answer, the lights flickered. Every console on the bridge went dark, then flared back to life. The comm crackled with voices. Not human voices. Not alien voices either. They were whispers. Hundreds of them. Jack froze. Vera stood slowly, every muscle tense. "Translate." The computer processed the sound, its tone unnervingly calm. "Do not leave." The bridge fell silent. Jack's skin crawled. "That's not creepy at all." The voices came again, louder this time. "Anchor. Stay." Jack's stomach dropped. "They're talking to me." Vera looked at him sharply. "How do you know?" "Because that's what they called me," Jack said, his voice shaking. "In the rift. They called me the Anchor." The lights flickered again. This time, when they came back, the forward viewport didn't show stars. It showed them. A shadow stretched across the void, not a ship, not a planet, but something alive. Vast. Endless. Its shape shifted like smoke, and yet Jack could feel its eyes on him. The entire crew stood frozen. Then the whispers became words, clear and echoing inside Jack's head. "You held them. You can hold more." Jack's breath hitched. "More? What do you mean, more?" "Others are lost. Bring them back." Torval's hands flew over the console. "Energy spike. Something is trying to force the rift open again." "Shut it down." Vera barked. "I'm trying." Jack staggered forward, gripping the railing. The shadow outside the viewport seemed to pulse with every beat of his heart. "Anchor. Help us." Jack felt a pull deep inside his chest, the same pull he felt in the nightmare, only this time, it was stronger. "Jack." Vera's voice cut through the noise. "Whatever this is, Fight it? Jack closed his eyes. He saw flashes not just of his crew, but of others. Other ships. Other lives, lost in the dark. Hands reaching, voices crying out, desperate to be pulled back. Jack gritted his teeth. I can't save everyone, he said through clenched jaw. The whispers turned into a roar, shaking the bridge. Vera grabbed his shoulders. You are not alone this time. If you do this, we do it together. Jack opened his eyes and saw the crew behind her, all of them awake, alert, standing ready. For the first time, he wasn't the only one fighting. He took a deep breath. All right. Let's bring them back. Torval's eyes widened. You're serious? Jack nodded. Open the medbay stabilization field. Boost power. Whatever I did before, I'm going to do it again. But this time, we're going to be ready. The ship shook violently as the rift tore open outside the viewport, glowing like a wound in space. Jack stepped toward it, his heart hammering. Okay, he muttered. Let's see how many I can hold. The rift tore wide open in front of the horizon, spilling light into the bridge like a second sun. The crew shielded their eyes as the stars themselves seemed to vanish, swallowed by the yawning void. Jack stood frozen, every muscle tense. The whispers in his head were no longer whispers. They were pleas. Pull us back, anchor, hold us. He could feel them, hundreds, maybe thousands of lives floating somewhere in that endless dark. Medbay field at maximum output, Torval shouted over the rumbling deck. Power at 90%, we can't hold this forever. Jack gripped the railing so hard his knuckles went white. Then we don't wait forever. We do this now. Vera stepped beside him, her towering figure a steady presence. Jack. If you reach for them, you might not come back. He swallowed hard. Then don't let go of me. The captain placed one clawed hand on his shoulder. You have my word. Jack took a deep breath and closed his eyes. Instantly, he was back in the dark. But this time, he wasn't afraid. The hands reached for him again, dozens, hundreds, but he didn't fight them off. He held on. He became the center of a storm, a weight in the middle of a sea that refused to let anything drift away. Somewhere far away, he heard Torval's voice. Energy spike stabilizing phase lock achieved. The first body appeared on the medbay scanners. Then another. Then 10 more. They're coming through. Ceres cried. Jack gritted his teeth. The pull grew stronger, threatening to rip him apart, but he refused to let go. Anchor. The voices grew softer. Less frantic. One by one, forms began to coalesce on the deck, strange shapes, alien bodies Jack had never seen before. Some wore tattered spacesuits. Some wore nothing at all. Some were barely conscious, but they were alive. 45 life signs, the computer announced. 50, 60. Jack's heart pounded. He could feel the rift starting to close, like a door slamming shut. Anchor, enough. Jack opened his eyes and shouted, now. Close it. Torval slammed his hands on the console. The stabilization field powered down. With a thunderous crack, the rift sealed, leaving only the stars quiet and distant in its place. The horizon went still. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then the deck was filled with the sound of breathing, dozens of ragged, grateful breaths. Jack collapsed to his knees, gasping. Vera knelt beside him and caught him before he hit the floor. You did it? Jack let out a shaky laugh. Did we? Torval's deep voice rumbled. 73 new life forms aboard. Most stable. Some critical. Jack looked around at the new arrivals. Some of them were staring back at him with wide, terrified eyes. They were trapped for years, Ceres said softly. Centuries, maybe. Jack's head spun. He couldn't imagine being in that dark for so long. But then one of the rescued aliens, a small creature with silver skin, crawled forward and placed a hand over Jack's heart. "You held us," it said, voice trembling. "You brought us home." Jack felt something twist inside him, not fear this time, but pride. He looked up at Vera. "Guess I'm not just the human on the crew anymore," he said. She smiled a real smile, sharp teeth and all. "No, Jack Halley. You are the anchor of the horizon." Epilogue. 2 weeks later, the rescued survivors were recovering in the medbay, slowly regaining strength. Some had ships and homes to return to. Others had nowhere left to go. Jack stood at the viewport, staring at the stars. Vera joined him. "Command has requested we report back to fleet headquarters. They want to study what happened." Jack smirked. "Good luck explaining it to them." Vera folded her arms. "We will try. But they will not understand." Jack nodded slowly. "I think that's okay. I don't fully understand it either." She turned to him. "Would you do it again?" Jack thought of the hands reaching for him, the darkness, the crushing weight of it all. Then he thought of the 73 breathing souls now alive because of him. "Yeah," he said softly. "I'd do it again." Vera's grin widened. "Good. Because sensors just picked up another rift." Jack sighed, grabbed his jacket, and headed for the medbay. "Fine," he said over his shoulder. "Let's see who else needs saving."